Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to go over my top 5 tips I think every single Viktor player needs to know. Now, the goal behind this video is to make you a better Viktor player and give you a better understanding of the champion as a whole by the end of it. Also, there's going to be timestamps at the top of the page at every single point of the video where you can skip this intro or you can skip a certain tip if you feel like you already have a good understanding of it. You can contact me directly down in the pinned comments. There is going to be my Discord server if you'd like to send me messages there, or you can subscribe and hit that bell button if you would like to be notified when I go live here on YouTube when I stream. Also, finally, make sure to add your own tips down below. I am a bit limited with this format, only covering 5 different things. And if you want to help out your fellow Viktor players, I heavily encourage that and just kind of create a little bit of a forum down below where you can help out anyone. As my audience is generally very new to the game and very new to the champion, it helps out tremendously to just cover kind of basic things that I do not cover here. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get right into the first tip. Alright, and getting into the first tip, I'm going to give you guys a couple of things you want to start understanding and utilizing when you are using your Q. If you didn't know, it's a basic blast that he sends out, and then a shield is applied to Viktor, and then his next auto attack is going to get a bit of bonus magic damage. So, how you want to look to utilize Viktor's Q is to take very quick trades in your windows of power when your Q is up, and utilize, if you have the augment with it, utilize the movement speed and the increased shield power. So, with Viktor being a ability-based champion, you want to take extremely quick trades like this, where you have both of your abilities up, you walk up, you Q, you auto, you E, and then you get out, making sure that you are taking full advantage of when you are getting in those trades. You are going to have your shield from your Q, and you are going to get your E off as well. And taking this really quick trade is going to give you a very easy access to a bit of a lead in the lane, and giving you a bit of priority in the lane where you're able to just clear out waves, and people are very rarely going to want to look to trade into you if you are consistently able to take these quick trades with your shield up and with your both your abilities, your Q and E, ready to answer any kind of damage. And when you're looking to take these really basic trades, if they're looking to return, you can start moving away and throwing your E in the path that they want to walk down, so they either have to get punished by both parts of the E if you have your augment up, or they have to move out of the way and not take a direct line at you. So you want to prevent people from walking straight at you with your abilities down, and you can do that by just setting up an E in that straight line that they might take at you. And that will wrap up tip number 1 for Viktor. Alright, and getting into tip number 2, I want to talk a little bit about the W and how you can utilize people's play patterns against them. So when you are laning, and say you're in the mid lane and you are playing against a champion like LeBlanc or like Zed or like Talon or Fizz that are constantly moving forward and looking to trade with you, how you want to look to utilize your W is staggering it towards where you think their movement is going to be. So putting it a little bit in front of them so they have to walk across the maximum amount of length of the W is going to be extremely effective. Say you're playing against something like a Ziggs or a Vel'Koz that might be a little bit more of a passive laner, staggering it a little bit behind them is going to be a better way to situate it. So make sure that you are reading the enemy's play patterns and looking to maximize the amount of time the enemy is going to spend in the gravity field. This can also be utilized, the same exact strategy, in team fights. If you're maybe against a team with a Leona or a Malphite or in a Kha'Zix, just a bunch of really just people that are looking to jump in and dive on you, you can look to be in the backline and look to utilize your W in a way where you're staggering it in front of the enemies, and they're going to have to walk through it as much of the gravity field as possible. Second, if they are a little bit more passive, if you're maybe snowballing and doing very well, they are going to be, in general, they're going to be running away from you quite a bit. So you want to look to stagger it behind them and cut off some of their escape routes when you are using your W. And that will wrap up this tip for Viktor. All right, and getting into tip number 3, I want to give you guys a couple of things you can look to utilize when you are using your E. And a lot of people really get caught off guard by the hitbox that is displayed on the E. You can see it by holding down your E, holding down your cursor, and then this ray is going to show up, and that is how your E is going to be displayed. As you can see here, it is quite a fat hitbox, but when you use the E, it is a very skinny line, and people think they are going to be safe if they are just outside of the line, which is really not true. As you can see right here, the line is very far away from the enemy, but he is still being hit by it. So this is going to be a great way where you're going to be able to hit people with the second part of your E just by putting it in the right situation. So the second thing I wanted to cover with Viktor in his E, outside of just getting really used to understanding this skill shot, is very similar to the Rumble ultimate and how to use it, but just getting a good understanding of where you can be throwing out your E is going to be rather crucial for Viktor, as it is a rather unique skill shot. But one thing I really want to talk about is making sure that you utilize your allies CC and stuns and slows and roots to really get both parts of the E and get a lot of damage off. Now, if you didn't know, the first part of your E has a higher base damage, so it's going to be doing a little bit more damage in the early game, but the second part of your E is going to have a higher AP ratio, so it's going to be doing a little bit more in situations where you have a crap ton of AP. So you want to make sure that you're going to be hitting with both, because they're both around the same damage and doing a large amount of damage, pretty much the same as the first tick of your R. So making sure that you are working off first your gravity field, slowing them down, and then hitting them with your E, or maybe a Morgana, waiting for one of your allies to really make sure that you are going to land your full combo if they are looking to set up a engagement when you are using Viktor. And that will wrap up this tip for him. Alright, and getting into tip number 4, I want to give you guys a couple of tips with the Chaos Storm. So if you did not know, it does a large chunk of damage as it first hits the target location right when you first spawn it, as well as it is going to interrupt enemy channels. So what an enemy channel is going to be something like a Vel'Koz ultimate. They're going to have to channel that while they are using it. Something like a Vladimir E that he is charging up with his channel. Something like a Xerath ultimate. Anything where there is a little channeling bar above the casting bar, or above the health bar, is where you are going to be able to interrupt it with. It is going to be huge in certain matchups, and where Viktor can really thrive as a bit of a counter pick, where you're able to take away someone's really high priority ability. And the second thing that I really think a lot of people that I see struggle with Viktor in lower elos as they are first starting to pick him up is understanding the Chaos Storm and really moving with it. So if you didn't know, when you press the R, you can reposition it by pressing R in different areas, but also how you want to be looking to play it is you don't want to only be controlling your R. You want to be inserting movement controls and your other abilities, as well as moving your Chaos Storm around. So how you can look to do this is to do a little bit longer of movement path entries here, and then moving around your Chaos Storm and repositioning it into the area that you want it. So the last thing you want to do is just being a sitting duck in League of Legends, as what I see a lot of lower elo Viktor players doing is that they just kind of stay still when their Chaos Storm is up and just trying to control it. This is really going to leave you open to a lot of damage. So making sure that you are continuing dodging around and moving around and using your abilities is going to be rather important when you are playing Viktor. If you have any questions about this, you can hit me up in the comments down below. Alright, and getting into the final tip for Viktor, I want to talk a little bit about where Viktor can really thrive in certain situations, and that is very common. I know I cover this tip quite a bit, but it is very important that people that are ability-based users understand that they are really they are 10 times stronger when they have a choke point to work with, and they are able to hit multiple champions with their abilities. So looking for areas like this is going to be an extremely important skill to set up fights here for your teams. Always look to set up vision traps, maybe have a control ward here, wait over the corner, maybe let a couple people funnel in, and then using your abilities can be a great way to look to utilize Viktor. Now this is going to be a lot more prevalent, these kind of fights, in the later periods of the game when you're fighting around objectives. So you want to look to hover around areas where you can hit several targets, and these are going to be the ones that I'm just pinging around right here. And these are mostly ramps that come to the objectives, and this is where Viktor can really thrive. If you have something like a Malphite or a Nautilus or a Leona that is going to be setting up a lot of your team fights, even say, hey, in chat, let's look to fight in choke points. I have a lot of AoE damage, and we can look to do just crush them in some sort of wombo combo. So looking for these choke points in team fights is just going to overall increase your accuracy with your E, your W, and hit more targets with your R. It's going to just overall increase your DPS in team fights if you are able to hit multiple targets, as opposed to just doing it kind of more in the wide open space of the river where people are able to dodge quite a bit easier. This is also extremely important when you are playing Viktor, to understand that you can control these gaps right here in between the two areas where you can start condensing people into these two pits. Viktor is a great team fighter in around these objectives, so making sure that you roam for these in the early game, as the dragon spawns are rather important, and you can just look to control these areas with your very strong amount of AoE. And that will wrap up the final tip, guys. If you have any questions for me, you can hit me up in Discord or on my or in the comments down below. And as always, guys, take it easy.